Yesterday we had a ewe that went downhill really bad. I was in my office working most of the day. My wife had come in there and told me like, hey, this ewe's laid down. She doesn't look like she's feeling super good. It was 95 degrees outside. I figured it was hot. I mean, she didn't make it seem like, we moved their pens, we rotationally graze them. So she's like, she'll get up and move, but she just doesn't seem like she's feeling good. And when I went down there for our evening feeding, I could tell this ewe was in really rough shape. She didn't really want to pick her head up, checked her gums, checked her eyelids. She was ghost white. Like, I've never seen an animal this white and still breathing at the same time. So we put together an emergency drench to give her, to try to get her revitalized, get her gut feeling better, get her some energy. And I didn't think she was gonna make it another hour, to be honest with you. And fortunately, we drenched her every 2 hours, and she popped back up and she was doing pretty good. And we gave her the middle of the night by herself out there. I just went and put some hot water in this jar here. We're gonna take that down there in case we need to warm the drench up that we still have left. And we're gonna see how she's doing. So hopefully she's up, hopefully she's doing okay this morning. I haven't been out there yet, but we're about to go find out. So let's see how she's doing. All right, so the sheep are down here in these pens. They're all laid down. It's early in the morning, but there's one that's laid down flat out, and I'm really hoping that's not her, but we'll get down there and find out. Okay, so I just got a huge sigh of relief because the ewe that was laid flat out sat up, shook her head, and just stood up, and it's this ewe with the halter on, and that's the girl. So the fact that she jumped up seeing me come down here is a really good sign. But let's go ahead and get some eyes put on her and see how she's actually doing. So my audio must have gotten disconnected as I climbed over the fence, but we'll show you everything I did there. We went and gave that sheep 4 drenches. The first thing I did when I walked into the pen and climbed over there to check was I checked her gums, checked her eyelids. Her eyes were bright. Like, she had a good brightness, good life to her eye, which I was really happy about. Gums were pale white, more pale than they were after the last time we drenched her last night. So not surprising in the grand scheme of things, just simply because that the energy that's in this drench, it's probably going to last 4 to 6 hours. One of the things in prevention, because what we're suspecting is this is like lambing disease, and she's got 2 lambs on her side. She had triplets. She was a first-time ewe. We were feeding them a high protein feed and really good forage. We don't know exactly how much protein's in the grass. You guys can see we're rotationally grazing them, and they're doing a good job. The sheep are doing a lot of beating it down as well as eating it, but this ewe is just not getting enough protein. So I'm gonna go up there and jump their protein up in their feed just to make sure we don't run into this with the other ones as well. That my goal with this was I'm gonna go back in. We're gonna get out of the wind here a little bit, and I will show you guys the exact ingredients in this drench. That way you can add it to your toolbox should you have a sheep that actually goes down or something like that. And then of course, if you guys have your own drenching concoction that you want to share in the comments, that would be awesome as well, because I think my whole saying is together we rise, and the more that we share this stuff, the better. I didn't grow up around it. I'll talk about that here in a minute, but we're gonna get them fed, and then we'll show you guys the drench recipe here. Oh, and I had a bucket of grain sitting here. We were trying to get her to eat last night, and this is what their little grain mix looks like now. We're taking whole ingredients and mixing it together. So we got Alaskan field peas. We've got a little bit of sunflower seeds, flax, kelp, alfalfa pellets, oats, barley, and I think that's everything that's in there, unless I'm missing something. And if I am, I'll let you guys know. But we've been mixing this together and formulating this ourselves. And so we've jumped up the ratio of protein in this just to give them a bit more, because clearly, if that one ewe is having a little bit of trouble, the other ones couldn't, we don't want them to get further behind. The babies look great, like that you guys could see. The babies look really, really good, but the ewes, they're giving a lot of that energy to them. So we need to make sure those ewes are taken care of and they're rocking and rolling. So let's go up here and get them fed, and we'll come back down here and check on them in a bit. Okay, so let's dive into the ingredients in this drench. And I tried to be very intentional that each ingredient had a purpose, and I didn't hold anything back from what I could tell from the best of my knowledge on this. And kind of green, but we went ahead and used what we had. We're gonna go in the house here in a minute because the rest of the ingredients are in the house. But one of the things I had on hand is called Aqua Aid. It's actually an electrolyte that we use for our horses. And I used just a teeny tiny little bit of this because I didn't want to pull too much from her with the electrolytes, but I did add this to the drench, right? Kind of just looks like salt. I had this sitting here from one of our horses, and this is hemp seed coconut oil. I added a little bit of that as well as 2 other ingredients that would also help stimulate her gut. Actually, probably 3 other ingredients to stimulate her gut, because gut health is so important. And if we could get her out of the woods, we knew that we needed to get her rumen off and going. Now, we keep kelp, and we also keep this Redmond's sheet mineral free choice to them. But because she was depleted clearly depleted in a lot of areas, I did include a little bit of that in her of the Redmond sheet mineral in the drench. And then we have this organic kelp. I think it's from Zero Standard. I'll link that I'll link all the ingredients that I've gotten offline, because we bought a lot of this stuff like Amazon, and some of it direct. And I'll link that stuff down below. I don't know if you guys can hear Quesadilla. Hey, buddy. Are you hungry? I'm a good boy. He's such a ham. All right, so I've got the rest of the ingredients here, and this is quite the concoction. A lot of the stuff that you guys will probably already have on hand, we already had around the house. There's one thing here that we had specifically for the sheep that was already in here. But the next thing I put in there was olive oil. I mentioned out in the barn that I used a little bit of that horse equine, or the equine hemp seed and coconut oil. Again, I threw a dash of olive oil in there as well, just to kind of help with gut motility. I know that like when we tube horses, a lot of times they'll add some oil to kind of keep things moving through their system, and that was the main reason for that. I actually threw in just a dash, just a little bit of a sprinkle of ground ginger, because it's anti-inflammatory primarily, and it can help with, you know, gut health and those sorts of things, but mainly for like an anti-inflammatory. And if her body was kind of in metabolic shock, for a lack of better terms, then there's going to be inflammation, right? There's going to be stress throughout the body. So utilizing some ground ginger is why I threw that one in there. Everybody's probably got this around. We got old, I was going to say Aunt Jemima, but it's not Aunt Jemima. She got canceled a while ago. We got Grandma's molasses. I don't know how they're going to cancel Grandma, but they probably will try. Use the molasses because of just quick energy, a little bit more palatability, but mainly energy to kind of really get her going as best as possible. All right, so we're gonna get to the next thing. Obviously, it's a little brighter in here. My phone died. So, but the next thing that we put into this drench was bone meal. And I will definitely link this one down below because we got this off Amazon. We have used this before to kind of support some of the ewes if they feel like they need a little bit extra calcium. Bone meal is pretty high in protein. And so when I was putting this in the drench, it was 2 reasons. One, it'd be a concentrated source of protein because she wasn't really wanting to eat hay, wanting to eat any grain, and with a high calcium. And then there's also quite a bit of phosphorus and a little bit of magnesium in here. I put quite a bit into the drench. Like out of all the ingredients outside of water that got put into the drench, the most that I put in there was bone meal. Again, I'm going to link like a list of ingredients with quantities down below. That way you guys kind of have the drench recipe, for a lack of better terms. All right. Well, I got one thing sitting here that we put in the drench that you guys are going to go like, really? But I'm going to save that one for last. We're almost there. This one was organic apple cider vinegar. I just felt like from a gut health standpoint, when we did the hemp seed oil with the coconut oil mix from the horse supplement in the barn, the olive oil, and then also using just a touch, just a little dash of apple cider vinegar to ultimately help stimulate her gut health. I felt like that could help just a little bit with the rumen and to get things flowing. So the last thing that I actually included, and this is something that I looked up and I was like, I don't know, this seems a little strange, but I understand why it would help. And we actually ended up using yogurt. Okay, like this is Costco brand Greek yogurt, organic Greek yogurt. It's plain, not flavored or anything like that. And I did put a fair bit of yogurt into the mix, and ultimately to help the gut flora, right? To really give her gut some good healthy bacteria as best as we could to kind of stimulate some things. And so when we looked at the overall drench of what we were putting in there from the bone meal, from the molasses, right, with the oils, and then just a touch of kelp, a touch of the Redmond's sea salt, not sea salt, the Redmond's mineral, and then a touch of electrolytes, right? Really, the kelp, the minerals, the Redmond mineral, and then the electrolytes, like not the electrolytes, but those other two, like really trying to make sure that she had the essential minerals to kind of get her system back up and going. Like minerals are so important. And when they're that depleted and they're not looking good, if we can get some minerals, get some of those essential ingredients that the ewe needed to kind of get her revitalized, the molasses being energy, right? Can we get her some short-term energy into her system? The ground ginger, as I mentioned, also helping with some inflammation. The oil to kind of help move things. It's more like a vehicle to get things moving through her system. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if sheep can actually digest oil. I know within horses, a lot of times they can't digest the oil because they don't have a rumen, right? And so maybe the sheep are able to. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments if they can. But really using that oil as a vehicle, as well as to kind of keep things lubed up through the system. The yogurt to help with getting her gut flora back up and going, to hopefully help with some digestion. Calcium, protein on the bone meal, and a little bit of dash of apple cider vinegar there to just add to the overall gut health. That's the ingredients there. I'm going to link this down below as far as a recipe so that you guys can have access to this. A lot of these things you might have sitting around your house. Other things, if you need to get anything, I'm going to link also in all the stuff that we got off Amazon, the drench gun, the bone meal, some of the supplements from the barn. I'll link those to our Amazon shop down below. That way you guys can get those and you can get the exact ones that we've got here.
What are y'all doing? You're not supposed to be in the trough. You happy?
Now, one of the things that we realized in this process was that drench alone was not going to be enough to save this ewe. And we even had another one that we started drenching as well, just to make sure we weren't going to run into additional issues with that one. And the reason that we noticed that was because that drench that I just gave you the recipe to was enough to kind of give them some energy, to get them kind of back on track, to get the life back in their eyes. And those were all good signs. But the thing that we really realized that we had to address was the fact that there was not enough substance of nutrition to that drench. And these ewes were not necessarily going ahead and going, hey, they weren't interested in feed, right? They weren't trying to drink on their own. They're not trying to eat on their own. And I say they were because now they are, which is the fortunate part that this has helped pull them. But the thing that we had to end up doing was, and I'll show you this here real quickly, I'll set you guys down, is now we got a bunch of rain last night, so this added even more water to this, which is okay. But what we have here is, I'll pull out the drench gun here, and so you guys can see this, is, you can see this is like a very soupy, it's like think like making chocolate milk, for lack of better terms. And so what we did was we took the same drench ingredients that I already gave you, and then we took their feed, and we mix our own feed for these sheep. And so what we ended up doing is we have barley, oats, alfalfa pellets, black wool sunflower seeds, flaxseed, kelp, and then Alaskan peas. I bumped up the protein in that particular feed that we typically feed them. And then the first time we did this, I didn't have time to soak the feed. We just didn't have time to do it. And so I gave it like 15 or 20 minutes, which isn't really enough, because when you have stuff like that's as coarse as what's in this feed, to really soften it up, you need a couple hours. But we had to work with what we got, threw it in a blender, put that feed with a bunch of water, and then the same ingredients from the drench, and then blended it up. And it was a little tough to get through the drench gun, okay? Now, this feed we let soak, then the next go around, we let it soak for 6 or 8 hours, and you guys can see that this has feed in it, and yeah. And so when it all settles in the bottom, it makes it a little more difficult. But we're able to push this right out through this drench gun, you see? When I was holding it upside down, all that feed will settle, so it makes it a little tough. So you'll notice that when I go to get it out of the bucket, then I'll swirl this around, and it'll allow the drench gun to fill up, and it'll still get some feed in there. And then when we go to give it to the ewe, then you're able to, you won't be pointing this down, you'll be pointing it more to the side, and it'll be easier to come out, okay? I'm gonna get ready to drench this ewe again here, and you guys can see, but we went and soaked that feed, added the same ingredients from the drench, because right, we still wanna promote the rumen health, we wanna get some energy into them, but we need some real nutrition. That was the thing, that if we didn't do that, they weren't gonna pull through. It wasn't gonna be sustainable, and that was the thing that we realized. And so I'm gonna go ahead and step over here. We'll drench this ewe. You guys can see that. But this was a big change. It wasn't, you know, when I started doing this video, I was like, oh, we're just gonna show them the drench. And it was like, hey, that drench alone is not gonna be enough, because ultimately the ewes were not deciding that they were gonna start eating on their own, which is a big problem. Hello, princess. This is not for you. You're thriving. All right, y'all, so let's go over here. She's up underneath this tarp here. You guys can see she's gonna be a little more lively, which is good if I can get her caught. Okay, got you caught. Which is, I like the fact that she's a little more evasive overall, just because it shows that she has a little bit of will to live. The downside, I'm gonna try to keep my hands on her. Without having to let her go, because having to re-catch her, having to do this is not ideal. Mix my bowl up here, get the feed in. Okay. My wife fed them this morning, and she said that, you know, she was looking good, but when she came down to milk the other ones that are in the other pen over there, there you go. But she wasn't as interested in the overall feed, in terms of like when we dump the grain out for these other sheep, that she wasn't just like, oh, okay, I'll eat with them. So my plan is to keep drenching her. You know, I'm not going to drench her so much that she's just constantly full, because then why would she eat, right? And she'll be like, hey, you can just do this the rest of my life, and that's not going to happen. But do you give her enough, because we got to make sure that she's got enough calories and everything to get to feeling better. And so we want to make sure that we're giving her enough that, you know, she's got enough nutrition, but that she's still willing to eat some of this alfalfa that's here on the ground. And shut, youngins. It's starting to act like a sheep again. Hey, Joey. So sometimes like this, it'll get stuck. What I've done is, if it does get a little too stuck, I've got a little hoof pick on my knife, and I can just try to work it loose. A couple other things I want to say, just to make sure we don't leave out, is that we've done to help this particular ewe. You're thriving. You're doing just fine, princess. Is we've been giving, we added red cell, a little bit of red cell, right? From all the research I said that I looked up, people were like, hey, I have to be careful about how much you add. So we added like I think it was 5 cc's to the drench as well to kind of help in case they were anemic. And so we added red cell. That was something else that we added to that. I'll make sure that's in the ingredient list as well, as I promised. And then the other thing that we were doing was subcutaneous fluids, right? So when you go to give a shot, instead of doing not IM, not intermuscular, and not IV, not into the bloodstream, but we were going between the skin and between the muscle, and we were adding we did about 5 to 6 locations, and actually would start with that particular did one up here near the withers, and then I kind of just worked my way down their back, and did them up top above their abdomen, and ended up, hello Joey, and so added about 50 cc's per site. So we would do about 200 to 250 cc's of water about every 8 to 12 hours. So we did the 50 cc's in about 5 locations, about 250 cc's about every 8 to 12 hours, depending on how hydrated she was looking. Also was still drenching her with 100 to 150 cc's of water orally through the drench, just to kind of keep her feeling as good as we possibly could. And so that's kind of been the wrap, guys. The other thing I should mention too with that was the water that we gave orally, as well as the water that we gave subcutaneously. And even when we were trying to give the actual smoothie, let's say your drenching smoothie, was we wanted that water to be warm, because there's the chance that they kind of go hypothermic and their body temperature's dropping. And it's been hot here. It's been like 95 degrees. We noticed the other ewes were laying in the shade, while the ones that were having some trouble were laying out in the sun, probably trying to warm up. And so we didn't want to pull their body temperature down with like cold water. And so that was something small that we did. Hopefully it made a difference. I don't think that it would hurt, even if that wasn't the case and we were giving them warm fluids. They definitely weren't like running a fever by any stretch. And so that was something that we did to be able to help them out as well. And so, guys, I hope that you guys don't end up in this situation, but if you're watching this video and you are in this situation, then hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this helps your animals, your livestock, your ewes get pulled out of a difficult spot. And if you guys got any questions, let us know. We're definitely new on the sheep side, so some people will like share plenty of advice of how to avoid these situations, but sometimes things happen and you got to do your best to respond to them, not end up reacting, but rather focus on responding. What can we do to be proactive about this and handle the situation the best we can, and then focus on the solutions moving forward so that doesn't happen. So if you guys want to see more content like this on the homesteading side around here, we kind of joke that it's horses, homesteading, and homeschooling. And so if you guys got anything else you guys got questions about, want to see, be sure to let us know. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys next time.